Harvard Divinity School.
100 Years Rudolf Steiner, December 15th and 16th, 2025.
Our final speaker now is Gaia Termopoli, who will be speaking on pioneering aspects of Marie Steiner-von Sivers' work and anthroposophy's contribution to theater. Gaia Termopoli is currently pursuing a PhD at the Institute of Theater Studies, University of Bern, on Marie Steiner-von Sivers as a pioneer of directing. Trained as a theater actress at the National Academy Silvio D'Amico in Rome, she has worked in international theater productions. She holds a master's degree in educational science from the University of Urbino and has recently been working with mystery theater. Please join me in welcoming Gaia Termopoli.
Thank you so much. Yes, so my paper, the title, I already said, is Pioneering Aspects of Marie Steiner-von Sivers' Work and Anthroposophy's Contribution to Theater. And here you have two pictures, and this is the section along the longitudinal axis, first Goetheanum and nearby the second Goetheanum. And the Goetheanum, public space theater headquarters of the General Anthroposophical Society and home of the School of Spiritual Science, is a difficult institution to grasp. However, when one looks at the architectural structure of both the first and the second Goetheanum, its theatrical form becomes evident. What then is the connection between anthroposophy and the theater stage? Why is the center of the anthroposophical movement architecturally designed as a theater? Can the contribution of Rudolf Steiner and anthroposophy to theater and dance studies be fully understood without including Marie Steiner-von Sivers? How does our perception of anthroposophy's impact on the performing arts shift when Marie Steiner-von Sivers is acknowledged as a co-creator alongside Rudolf Steiner? What role did she play in shaping theater concepts grounded in anthroposophical insight? So the aim of the paper is to examine the contribution of anthroposophy to theater studies and the pioneering work of Marie Steiner-von Sivers in the field of theater directing. And there is, through historiographical research and the feminist methodological approach, I will trace the artistic biography of Marie Steiner-von Sivers, highlighting the key moments in her artistic education and practice and their collaboration with Rudolf Steiner and the development of spiritual work together with her pioneering achievement as a female director. The necessity of historical contextualization of Marie Steiner-von Sivers' contribution to theater studies makes it possible to reveal both the contemporary relevance and the historical positioning of her work within the artistic discourse of the late 19th and early 20th century, as well as the historical contextualization of women's position within the performing arts from the late 19th centuries to the mid-20th century. Marie Steiner-von Sivers, born today is Poland, but it was Russia, and passed away in Switzerland, in Beatenberg, has three main phases that can be identified in the biography, each linked to the development of different forms of artistic styles, and these phases simultaneously reflect also the various moments in the evolution of epistemological thought running parallel to the shifting social formation that were first associated with theosophy and later with anthroposophy, but also the role of the women in the context of theater and the paradigm shift in the education of theater. I will, of course, not go in this specific theme in this presentation. We start with the first phase, which extends from 1895 to the early years of the 20th century, may be regarded as the formative period. Then we have the second phase, marks the emergence and the development of her collaborative work with Rudolf Steiner and the birth of two specific arts within anthroposophy, namely the art of creative speech and eurythmy. And the third and final phase presents Marie Steiner-von Sivers as a pioneer of stage direction in a role as leader of the section for the performing arts within the context of the School for Spiritual Science and leader of a theater ensemble. So the young Marie von Sivers, we already heard, belonging to the military class, active within the German community of St. Petersburg, was educated to the highest level available to her as a woman of the time. And she decided to devote herself to poetry through private study of acting and declamation, despite knowing that she could not become an actress, as this was forbidden by her family. The profession of the actress was still associated with prostitution and was not viewed favorably by upper-class families. Despite this, the young Marie Steiner-von Sivers trained for the stage as far was possible for her within all the restrictions that characterized the period bridging the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th centuries. And I want to remember there were not really school for theater, it was just at the beginning at the time. For exception, the conservatory. She received, so I will go through these four. So the artistic training of Marie Steiner-von Sivers, that now I will introduce, the theoretical and practical development of theater out of the anthroposophical knowledge, so creative speech and eurythmy, the course in creative speech and drama of 1924 that you heard about it now, our paradigmatic example, and the pioneering direction work of Marie Steiner-von Sivers. The artistic training, she received lessons in French acting in Paris during the year 1894 to 1897 from the actress Marie Favart, that was known as the Queen of the Comédie Française. Since all members of the Comédie Française had attended the Conservatoire de Paris, and since Marie Steiner-von Sivers herself participated for a period as an auditing student in the acting classes, it became possible to analyze the pedagogical framework. And this provides a clearer picture of what she was able to study and assimilate. And the fact that Marie Favart, a pupil of Samson, was not part of the teaching staff of the Conservatoire was due to the fact that the women did not have the right to teach. The unofficial teaching carried out by Marie Favart attested to the prohibition placed on women from serving as instructor in the training of new generation of actors. For these reasons, forms of individual private instruction developed. This testimony of private lessons between Marie Steiner-von Sivers and Marie Favart constitutes, within the context of feminist theater historiography, a central element, as it allows us to confirm once again that despite the prohibition and restriction imposed on women, women's activity have always existed. They have simply never been recorded as they were unofficial. Then, after Paris, after the Parisian experience, Marie Steiner-von Sivers returned to St. Petersburg, where she devoted herself to private acting lessons with the already familiar Maria von Strauss-Pettini. From the perspective of women historiography, it is important to highlight that the actress Maria von Strauss-Pettini was required to interrupt her acting career upon marriage, an artistic profession that was viewed unfavorably when combined with married life. But the invisible teaching and directing work of Maria von Strauss-Pettini, along with her forced withdrawal from the stage, once again reveal a process of becoming invisible. But she was bringing on the activity of teacher for young actresses and actors. She also has an important role because she was involved in the attempt to arrange a debut in Berlin for Marie Steiner-von Sivers under a false name and abroad. And but Marie Steiner-von Sivers abandoned this attempt when she realized that in order to become a recognized actress under false name and abroad, she would first have to win the affection of the press, and the idea of having to earn the favor of journalists in this way undoubtedly led her to renounce an acting career. She nevertheless continued her lessons in Berlin with the Austrian Seraphine Dechi, a famous teacher of diction and acting, and the author of books on speaking technique for actors, which originated from her training with Joseph Levinsky. Almost nothing is known about this figure, even though she appears to have trained the majority of German actors of the time in stage speech. The striving for a renewal of stage art, particularly concerning the relationship to word and language, was ever present in Marie Steiner-von Sivers. Deeply critical of the naturalistic style, she was constantly searching for a modern form of acting in which the creative power of the word would be preserved on stage. And the collaboration between Marie Steiner-von Sivers and Rudolf Steiner was significant for both of them, as together, how I said, they developed creative speech as a technique in which the hair, rather than the vocal organs of the body, serves as the resonator and eurythmy, understood as the art of movement in space that makes language visible. These two arts are signing the historical impact that anthroposophy made in the history of the performing arts. But the question is, to what extent are these two arts born? We'll try to cut a little bit, but it's not easy. So here we start with the theosophical movement and society, and we need to introduce Edouard Chouret, a French philosopher, musicologist, and dramatist that played a central role in the development of the theatrical concept of Rudolf Steiner and Marie Steiner-von Sivers. We can even say that they built this up together. Exactly. So we have a different phase. So the desire to renew the theater both on the part of Edouard Chouret and of Marie Steiner-von Sivers and Rudolf Steiner is an event that took place in parallel within their biographies before they had met one another. In autumn 1900, Marie Steiner-von Sivers attended in Berlin the lectures of Rudolf Steiner. Maybe I skip this because you already heard. So they became soon the two central personality of the German Theosophical Society. And they adopt Chouret's idea of the theater of the soul. This element united itself with intention developed by all three of them to bring the esoteric element not as a means of scenic effect, but rather as a way of rediscovering the roots of a theater capable of reconnecting with the mysteries, with a spiritual source that could serve as a turning point in the biography of its audience. This was intended as a sign of renewal for the theosophical movement and a source of inspiration for all contemporary esoteric currents. Art as a mediator of spiritual content. And then we have another big phase from 1912 to 1924, where they developed, Marie Steiner and Rudolf Steiner developed the creative speech and the eurythmy, really out of anthroposophical anthropology. And for these new artistic forms were necessary because were forms capable of manifesting themselves in the audience visual and auditory perception. So was the idea to presenting occult truths through the idea of an initiatory theater. Then the course in creative speech and drama of 1924, I take this our paradigmatic example. We have an independent acting theory, is pioneering professional training for actors. Everything was new. The expanding of the Aristotelian concept of mimesis, the metamorphosis doctrine of Goethe as a method in performing arts, and the meditative practice as method for the performing arts and integral part. And then we have the last phase after the 1924 until we can say 1947. She was fully worked, and she worked really 46 years of uninterrupted work in the artistic research in the spiritual domain. She made 21 directions in 23 years. excluding all the eurythmy and the choir direction and so on. This is just plays, so 21 plays. Also the mystery drama are in. The first complete staging of Faust I and II in theater history ever. And this is, who is from Germany know how important this is. And the artistic director for the contribution of Switzerland at 1937 in Paris World Expo. With eurythmic creative speech and plays, and she was pioneer in the role of director, because there were not yet directors, were just born, the idea of director in the sense of aesthetic direction of a play. And she was pioneer of female director. The first female director that we have in the history are starting in the 70s. Here we have some pictures of her rehearsing already late in the 70s. She was in the 70s. Exactly. So thank you very much for your attention.
Sponsored by the Program for the Evolution of Spirituality.
Copyright 2023, the President and Fellows of Harvard College.